Hallo? Geht der? Geht den halt, ja. Gut, bonjour.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome you this morning to our press conference organized in the topical area of Solvit, celebrating 20 years. In this press conference has been organized together with the representation of the Commission in Luxembourg and with the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Welcome, Mr. Minister Franz Fayot, represents the Commission in Brussels, and representatives of civil society, having made a lot of positive experience with the Solvit. This press conference is accessible via live stream as well. We want to try and reach as many people as possible out there to have more awareness concerning Solvit. In the next minutes, you will see that the different contributions will allow us to see us solve it from all kinds of points of view. And this 20th anniversary is an excellent moment to try and spread the word and to reach more visibility for this tool and to give an overview of what has been possible to be done in 20 years and to have an outlook as well based on quite interesting report that the Ministry of Economic Affairs has drafted and based on experience from the public out there as well with Solvit. Questions: what will be possible to be done continuously to have this tool modernized and become more efficient, and quite interesting ideas will be developed. What is Solvit? I will not answer in detail this concept as such. The following speakers will do so. From my perspective, only an indication to tell you this tool which is solution oriented. It has been installed for citizens and for companies moving in the single market, having problems, and the solution-oriented approach is really linked to the general approach of the Commission, which is always towards solutions. We've been able to see it in the recent times with months and years, with a lot of crises, and there's more to come. The Commission sees a problem and goes in a very determined way about solving the problems without any ado, and developing several proposals for solutions, and member states have to decide upon that. And this willingness to act quickly and efficiently to avoid an escalation of problems, this is the main objective actually of Solvit, and I think that Solvit is a really good example also how the added value of Europe can be shown specifically in the day-to-day life, and you will see about it, how Solvit is working and who are the beneficiaries. Well, this is a topic for our 5 upcoming speakers. We will be starting with the Minister for the Economy, Franz Fayot, indicating how he sees the importance for Solvit to have an optimum implementation of EU rules within the single market for citizens in Luxembourg, but also for the companies. After that, Cindy Bauwens, Charge de Direction, Executive Officer for the Solvit Center Luxembourg, working within the Ministry for the Economy, will indicate how they are working and how they get about solving problems. Then the president of ACEL, of the Luxembourg students, will indicate the specific help she got from Solvit in a specific case. After that, we will continue with my colleague from DG GROW in Brussels, Marie-Veronika Tovjak-Pleterski. We are really happy that you've been able to join us here today in Luxembourg to explain from the Commission point of view the importance of Solvit and what you are willing to do for the improvement of the single market in the future for citizens and companies. And at the end, another point of view, again, another example illustrating the efficiency of Solvit in our daily life for our citizens. So far from my side. In the upcoming 3/4 of an hour, I will guide the debate, and if there's questions, we are all there for you. Thank you very much. Please, Minister. Thank you very much. And welcome from my side as well to this press conference. I'm really happy that part of the journalists are here with us, although we have a lot of things going on. President Zelensky's speech at the chamber, the parliament, and other debates. So Solvit, as indicated, is linked directly to the European single market. 2022 is not only the 20th anniversary of Solvit, but also the 30th anniversary of the Maastricht Treaty, and thus the launch of Jacques Delors' large internal market program. The internal market is something of the utmost importance for a small country like Luxembourg, obviously. It is really the engine of our economy as a whole, but moreover, it is something that can be felt on a daily business here in Luxembourg without always being aware that it's linked to the single market and all the liberties linked to that. These are shopping, digital services, working with a company elsewhere in the EU, go on a vacation, go for studies abroad, things that are taken for granted today, but they are linked, all of them, to a well-functioning single market. Just a few figures indicating the importance of the single market for us in Luxembourg. More than 85% of Luxembourg's merchandise trade comes from exchanges with other EU member states. 38% of Luxembourg residents are nationals of other European Union countries. Every day, around 220,000 commuters come from other countries to Luxembourg, without whose work and know-how our economy and that of the greater region and our healthcare sector would not be able to run, as we've seen during the COVID pandemic as well. Nevertheless, not everything is as it should be. It's a formidable tool, but it's not perfect. It's a work in progress, so to speak. The sanitary crisis linked to COVID-19 reminded us of its fragility as well. Here in the greater region as well, we've been able to see what it means when borders are shut down again, border controls coming up again, or export bans for unessential products such as medical masks or respirators at the beginning of the pandemic, but afterwards as well we've been faced with difficulties in this way linked to closing down borders. Essential work, especially in the health system, could not join their jobs here in the country. So we could see what the internal market means, what the free movement has as diverse expressions for people and for trade as well. Similar risks exist in the context of the Ukraine crisis as well. We have a whole series of supply chains that have been disrupted, no freedom of exchange of merchandise, protectionism coming up again, as we could see during the COVID crisis already after a long period of time. And let's simply hope that this will not be repeated here again. And I keep saying at all European meetings of the Council of Ministers to indicate the importance of a well-functioning and strong internal market, indicating the need for improvements with specific proposals again and again. Within the EU, we have still rather big differences between different national rules and the administrative practices of the administration in this area. This is an obstacle for the internal market in a whole lot of areas. A greater harmonization is absolutely necessary, as it is impossible, especially for SMEs, to know and respect all the details of 27 different national legislations. If they want to offer their services to clients across Europe. For bigger companies, multinationals, that's no problem at all. But for the smaller ones, well, in the real economy, but also in the digital economy, by the way, we had a discussion about that with the DMA and DSA, the two sets of rules supporting e-commerce and digital services as well, to try and improve the organization of both. It's been a topic there as well, but it's always a topic when you talk about regulations of that type. The internal market is also a central element of the double transition, green and digital transition. We are trying to position Europe as a leader in the fight against climate change. This requires major investments in infrastructure and in new technologies, but above all, common rules and standards. If you want to go further, you must first and foremost ensure that the rules decided by the European Union are applied effectively and uniformly on the ground. The misapplication of EU rules leads to huge losses, going up to 700 billion euros a year, according to estimations, particularly in the area of free movement of goods and services. This cost of non-Europe, as it is called, is the subject of a recent study published by the European Commission. Respect for EU law is also essential to build trust and to bring citizens closer to Europe. A poor application of rules means excessive bureaucracy, high costs, and missed opportunities. That's exactly where SOLVIT intervenes, where wrong decisions are taken that are contrary to EU law. So SOLVIT, as a name, is derived simply from the English to solve it. So try and solve problems wherever you can, with a link to all these services. SOLVIT is a free public service, but the mission is to help citizens and businesses if they have problems with a public administration in another EU country that does not respect or misapplies EU law. So it's always a context of cross-border activities involving two countries. SOLVIT is a free and fast alternative to litigation, which is often expensive and lengthy at court. Going to court also means defending oneself in the language of a foreign administration and knowing the applicable procedures. At SOLVIT, this is not necessary, because you can get help from the SOLVIT Center in your own country. SOLVIT, it's not that well known, is actually a great success. Since its launch in 2002, this network of lawyers working for the national administrations of the 27 EU member states has managed to successfully resolve as many as 80% of the complaints addressed to them within a period of 10 weeks, which is really short notice. The Luxembourg SOLVIT office, and that's why I'm here today, is located at my Ministry of the Economy. SOLVIT intervenes in all situations that make up the everyday life of businesses and citizens when they decide to work, to study, or to travel in another EU country. These are areas covering things like recognition of diplomas and driving licenses, right to pension and social security, authorizations to carry out an activity. These are just a few, but the main examples also being relevant here in Luxembourg. Currently, it is mainly the citizens who use the services of SOLVIT, as Cindy Bauwens will explain in further details right afterwards. You have to note that the service is actually aimed at citizens, but also at businesses, and this is not that well known. And that's why I would therefore like to appeal to all companies today to please not hesitate to contact Solvit and use the service if they encounter any difficulties with the public administration somewhere else in Europe. And that's why I'm really happy that we have representatives from ASEL here, the Luxembourg Students Association, who can tell us how Solvit has helped them, and the Luxembourg Philharmonia as well, who having problems where Solvit could intervene concretely and effectively. And Calteux said so as well. As part of the 20th anniversary of Solvit, the team here in Luxembourg has edited the history of Solvit, the Luxembourg Center of Solvit, in a publication, which is here, a brochure that is available to all of you. It's quite attractive and well done. But we not only look back, which is useful, and you know, have an overview in the past, however, but we also try to formulate suggestions to look ahead and to try and further improve the operation and quality of the Solvit service and the network. First challenge of the network is, first of all, the constant growth in the number of cases, and thus the workload. Solvit is a bit of a victim of its own success, if you like. All over Europe we can see that the increase in complaints means that the 27 Solvit centers will have to permanently increase their capacities. The European Commission estimates that 7 Solvit centers urgently need additional staff. 2 of these centers are among the 3 centers with which Solvit Luxembourg deals with the most complaints, being Luxembourg, France and Germany in this case, not to mention them, which brings delays and frustrations for our clients. It is therefore worthwhile considering giving Solvit maybe a legal base at a European level, in order to strengthen the role of this service within national administration. And our analysis would be that this would really lead to an added value and would have a lot of leverage in order to push some countries to make more means available. Second challenge concerns the lack of visibility of the network amongst businesses. At present, in less than 10% of the cases involving Solvit, companies are there. As I said, 90% concern citizens. This is why we in Luxembourg are making efforts to develop partnerships between Solvit and the main players in the corporate world, in particular within the framework of the Enterprise Europe network with the Chambre de Métiers and the Chambre de Commerce. The third challenge I would like to mention as the unresolved complaints with Solvit, which we have to follow up more systematically at a EU level, especially when it comes to a national rule that is contrary to EU law or leading to a false administrative practice. We have the Solvit register in the European plan as well, a whole series of points coming up again and again, and linked to the fact that there's a national rule not compatible with European legislation or an administrative practical approach. And we think that a whole series of these cases could be solved as well if there was a more specific approach trying to change these rules. Examples here are excessive delays in obtaining one's own pension, or when administrations request translations that are prohibited under EU law. In conclusion, I would like to quote the message from the European Commission as a reminder that came exactly 20 years ago in the birth stage of Solvit, which is still very much alive today. I'll read it in French. Trust will make or break the internal market. Europe's citizens and businesses need to be confident that the legal framework underpinning the internal market is of high quality and is being effectively implemented by member states. And if they encounter obstacles in taking advantage of the opportunities available to them, there must be effective and rapid means of remedying the situation. Whenever a problem remains unresolved, someone loses faith in the internal market and the European Union. And we all lose out. It is always said, that's quite right, to indicate that one cannot fall in love with this single market, but if we did not have the single market at all, we would be very badly positioned, especially here in a small country like Luxembourg. So we have to continuously try and improve it, and that's why it is extremely valuable for our citizens that there are services like Solvit that help them enforce their rights as citizens and companies, and in fine strengthen their confidence in the European project. Thank you very much. Thank you, Minister. And to have a more specific approach concerning the Luxembourg situation, we have as a main message that the internal market is a work in progress. Disparities raised by this can bring up problems for Luxembourg companies, being a very specific context linked to the fact that a lot of activities are almost always cross-border type of activities, and rules have to be implemented in an adequate way in order to increase confidence of citizens and companies in the EU project. Strong messages arriving at the Commission as well. Thank you very much for that. I'd like to give the floor now to Cindy Bauwens, Executive Officer of the National Solvit Centre Luxembourg, in the framing of the Ministry for the Economy. Cindy will give us a brief overview of our centre with the main figures, before giving us always an overview concerning future perspectives of the Solvit Centre Luxembourg. Thank you in advance, Cindy. Thank you, man. Good day to all of you. I'm really honored to be able to talk to you here at this press conference for the Solvit Service. I've been working for almost 10 years at Sweden, first of all, and in the Centre of Luxembourg as an activist. With my team, we are trying to get rid of all obstacles to the well functioning of the single market, and specifically we try to solve specific problems for citizens and businesses related to the misapplication of EU law by public administration of an EU member state. Let me start with a concrete example. A Portuguese resident called me and explained the following situation. She had read on our website a case that was similar to hers. So explained the following situation. She said to me, my husband has having a problem. He is working at a driving school in Portugal, fully qualified in Portugal. He has a lot of professional experience in Portugal. And we are residing in Luxembourg now, and he got in touch with the competent authority in Luxembourg and got a negative reaction to his application. Can you still do something about this? My husband doesn't know what else to do. So without Solvit, what would have been the logical approach? The decision would have to be attacked at court, administrative court. But this regress possibility might have been quite lengthy, uncertain as well, and costly, because the precise decision needs the involvement of a lawyer at court. And in the majority of cases that are brought to us, citizens or companies have to keep in mind when they want to travel abroad or study or work abroad or getting healthcare services or get in touch with companies in order to do business abroad. And people at the centers will, when they arrive there, don't speak the language and don't know the administrative procedures. So you can imagine that people are abandoning simply. They leave it be, although they have rights agreed upon by the European Union. That's why Solvit was created, to be able to talk to the people in their languages, respect languages, and to try and find an administrative solution within 10 weeks. And to come back to the case of this Portuguese resident and husband, well, we managed to reach a new decision and agreement with the EU legislation. So we changed the lives of these persons. The gentleman can practice his qualified job that he brought along from his country of origin, but as one person to be taken out of the list of people out of a job, and he can give driving courses in Portuguese, which is the second most important language here in the country amongst the different groups next to the official national languages. So in the internal market we are not losing out, so we've resolved cases like this. It's a win-win situation for each and everyone. So this success is not due to it's a unique methodology of cooperation between member states that has been nurtured between all my colleagues on the European level and myself, and we have a strong partner with the European Commission. Moreover, in 2021 we've been treating 2,455 cases with 80% of cases resolved. Let me focus a little bit more on the Luxembourg Centre of SOLVIT. In 2021 we have handled a total number of cases of 84, an increase of 40% in 5 years, and cases concern all areas of the internal market that have been mentioned by a minister, but mainly it's subjects handled linked to social security. If you want to have additional information concerning the origin, I can propose the yearly report that is available on our website with all the details and types of cases. So I'd like to come back as well to the success of SOLVIT and the SOLVIT Luxembourg Centre. More particularly, we have a resolution rate which is in the European average. It's 79% of complaints solved in Luxembourg in 2021, thanks to an excellent cooperation with our public authorities in Luxembourg, resolving an impressive number of cases at the satisfaction of all candidates. Additionally, in 20 years we've considerably increased the number of cases handled every year, and we have a high level of quality maintained for the services at the Luxembourg Centre. 2018, a national legal base has been created, which is unique as such on an EU level, because all details are specified here for the intergovernmental cooperation in trying to solve these complaints. There's a compliance culture to the EU legislation within the single market that has been developed in Luxembourg. Everything is not perfect, as Mr. Minister said. We have still the willingness to try and interest more companies for the SOLVIT services, because the large majority of cases handled are concerning European citizens, and we've produced major efforts to try and have a stronger contact to our contacts. In December 2019 we had a partnership agreement signed with the Chambre des Métiers. Since then we have regular meetings to try and solve company-specific problems, and every year with the Chambre de Commerce we are participating to the SME Open Day, where we have physical encounters with entrepreneurs indicating problems they are encountering in the internal market context. In order to have a higher level of visibility for SOLVIT Luxembourg in general, we have modernized and refurbished our website recently, available now in 4 languages: Luxembourgish, French, German and English. Very soon it's going to be available in Portuguese as well. And to finalize, I'd like to say that we are highly involved in services for citizens and companies next to our partner and ally, the European Commission. You have to know that this effort is reflected also in the strong involvement of the SOLVIT Centre Luxembourg on a European level to try and reinforce and modernize the whole network. And various specific approaches will be discussed in the coming month in the European context as well. And so you will be able to count on our willingness to continuously improve, that in the coming 20 years, maybe even earlier on, all citizens and companies will know about Solvit as a reliable partner to guarantee the application of their rights in the EU context. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Cindy Bauwens, for this very interesting presentation of your way of functioning, and I'm quite sure that your personal commitment has certainly contributed to the fact that the National Solvit Centre Luxembourg has been a success story with the legal base created here as an example for the rest of Europe. And this compliance culture is a really important element to mention as well, and I hope that companies listening to us via live stream are hearing the message. This instrument, this tool can be taken up from their side as well if they need it. So from my side as well, an invitation to use this tool which exists at their service. Thank you for that. Now I'd like to give the floor to the president of ACEL, the Students Association Luxembourg. A lot of them were studying abroad and being quite often confronted to new and unknown situations. Abroad they don't know the applicable rules, and so I think you had a very positive example also with the Solvit Centre Luxembourg. Good morning as well from my side. Right initially, I'd like to excuse Paulina Bachelard. There were different meetings, so I'm replacing her here. As I said, we are representing about 10,000 Luxembourg students studying all over the world, but most of them in the European context. At ACEL, we are taking up problems in the daily life of students, and we try to improve the legal framework, knowledge, have an easier life for students. So we're involved in different projects, so legislation about foreign stays or study financial support formulas, so we had a lot of input. But when you live abroad, there's also things that are not working smoothly. For instance, Luxembourg students living in Germany in the Saar region were confronted with fiscal complaint procedures because they parked their cars in public streets, and a lot of students called us, what can we do with our cars with Luxembourg plates in Germany? And then Solvit was mentioned as a possible tool. That was in 2019. Solvit took up the problem, made an analysis, and concluded that the application of German authorities was not correct, as students, our center of life is still in Luxembourg, even if we live for study purposes in Germany. And the taxes for the cars are paid in Luxembourg, and double taxation for cars is not acceptable. This was delivered to Solvit Germany, and in Zweibrücken the legal authorities were contacted and finally accepted the proposal. And thanks to the support of Solvit, we could draft a letter that students can download from our site. And when there's complaints that Luxembourgish cars should actually be taxed by residing students from Luxembourg in Germany, it could be brought. Another case was in Luxembourg. There was the GISGAN, which is fees paid by all households in Austria, but the Austrian legislation foresees when you get social support means this can be linked. But if you have social security from another country, you cannot be freed up. And this is an unequal treatment of EU citizens, in this case of students. And this was taken up by Solvit Luxembourg. Their analysis shared our view, which was really delightful for us. In 2019, we could have a different solution found for a Luxembourgish student in Austria, but this is not routinely applied as an adapted procedure. And so right now Solvit has asked for a procedure at the European Commission for legal advice, hoping to solve the problem in Austria in a general way, and that our point of view is being recognized there as well. and we hope that this will allow us to find an approach where students can deliver a form without too much red tape in order to be freed from this obligated fee. So we've had several examples of good cooperation with Solvit, and we would like to say thank you publicly here today for all these good procedures of support. There's going to be future projects as well, and we hope that the cooperation will be excellent as it has been done till now in the future as well. Thank you very much for this very positive illustration of the functioning of Solvit for young people as well. It's important actually that young people can see the added value of Europe. The European Year of Youth is a good context for that, and as the case was presented right now, it's really important also for the European Commission to be aware how the specific advantages for young people can be illustrated, and there's an additional value for you as well. You are involved directly as well, trying to support your students, and you have a very good contact with the Solvit team in Luxembourg and even extending the exchange. Thank you very much for your commitment in this context. And now I would like to give the floor to Marie-Veronika Tovja-Pleterski, Director of the Single Market Enforcement Unit at the DG GROW of the European Commission. Maria Veronica, you will give us a short overview concerning the history and the development, as well as perspectives of the Solvit network seed from the European Commission. And I think you will also underline the role of Solvit in the policy to implement all rules of the single market, a topic of major interest. Thank you very much, Anne. Well, good day to you, dear Minister, dear colleagues from Solvit Luxembourg, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm really happy to be with you today for this celebration of Solvit Luxembourg and also the 20th anniversary of the Solvit network in general. It's a pleasure to be with you here. I represent the European Commission's Directorate for Internal Market, Industry and Enterprise, as well as SMEs. The single market is at the heart of the European Union. This was quite adequately underlined already by Minister Fayot, and the single market is also the economic basis for the EU's position and influence in the world. As previous speakers have already mentioned, Solvit is a unique tool for the internal market. So Solvit was created on the 22nd of July 2002. Its aim was to help businesses and citizens overcome administrative obstacles to the exercise of their rights. Solvit, as the name suggests in English obviously, was created to solve problems. So this is the mission we have, to try and help problems in this area and contribute to better functioning of the single market. Over the past 20 years, the Solvit network has proven, in my view, to be an extremely valuable resource. Not only does it help businesses and citizens make use of their rights, but it also ensures that public authorities, whether national, regional or local, apply EU rules correctly. As Director of Single Market Enforcement, this is a subject close to my heart, obviously. The Solvit network emphasizes that we, Member States and the European Commission, work together in partnership to ensure the correct implementation and application of EU law. It is a difficult job, I know. The single market is complex And monitoring the correct application of legislation is often a difficult task. But monitoring compliance with internal market rules at a national level is also the responsibility of member states. And this is where Solvit centers play an extremely important role. Solvit centers are best placed to contact the right person in their national administration to explain the EU rules in question to them, to ask for the correct application in the national context, and if necessary, request that the national guidelines be amended. We've already heard very good illustrations from Cindy and the students' representative indicating how Solvit can really change a specific situation in people's lives. So the Commission's role is to support Solvit. We are doing everything to make sure that Solvit is well equipped. Solvit has been a digital pioneer from the start. The secret of its success was to create, and this was already the case in 2002, an IT network that enabled the national Solvit centers to communicate easily with each other, to track each case in a database, and to give us, so at the European Commission, an overview of the problems in reality. In the near future, we will upgrade our Solvit computer network to allow a more efficient processing of cases and also a better data collection on the functioning of our single market. The work to improve our IT network is important, and we thank the national Solvit centers for helping us. I know that Solvit Luxembourg has already volunteered to assist in this project. Thank you for that. Thank you in advance. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Solvit Luxembourg for all the work you've done. You indicated yourself the statistics, Cindy, on your performance, and this is quite a success story. And I see that you have done an excellent job. Your workload is increasing, as you explained yourself, but you have further improved also your resolution rate, and that's what matters at the end of the day for our citizens. You have 80% of complaints that have been resolved. Congratulations! This is an excellent success figure. To conclude, just a few words about the future then. One of the goals for the future is to promote and increase the use of Solvit by companies, especially SMEs. I've noted, Minister, that you are sharing this objective, so I'm really happy that we have a common approach concerning this future work part, because we really want to support the common work here between the Commission and the national centers for Solvit. Another objective is the proper follow-up of cases, the so-called structural cases that cannot be solved by the Solvit centers. We are quite aware of this challenge. It has been existing for a while, and sometimes the problem is deeply rooted. We have to be ambitious. This is a specific situation leading to these deep roots and not allowing service centers to overcome situations. And there are also horizontal issues that affect many member states, actually. And this is where The European Commission has an important role to play. On the one hand, we work in cooperation with the Secretariat General and other Commission services to ensure a proper assessment for starters, and afterwards an adequate follow-up of recurrent and structural unresolved Solvit cases based on the present Solvit means. And infringement procedures can certainly be used also in appropriate cases, by the way. On the other hand, we have linked the work of Solvit to our new single market enforcement task force. We call this SMET, Single Market Enforcement Task Force, SMET. SMET is a platform for experts from member states and the European Commission to work together to ensure a better compliance with the single market rules. And tomorrow already we will have a first meeting with SMET experts to see how this SMET work and Solvit can work together in order to try and improve this mission to resolve the horizontal problems. Dear Minister, dear colleagues, Solvit is a unique network based on the partnership between the European Commission and national administrations. This partnership has already shown its added value for the implementation of the single market in daily life. Thank you once again to Solvit Luxembourg for the work you are doing, and together we will continue our mission for the next 20 years. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maria Veronica. I think it's important to underline here that this work is a partnership approach between the European Commission and national administrations, and I'm happy to hear that Luxembourg is a privileged partner of the European Commission from your side as well. An appeal to companies and especially SMEs to get more involved, and I think more than 90% of companies are SMEs, the backbone of our economy here in the country, and so we have to make their lives easier, obviously. This new cooperation with the Single Market Enforcement Task Force, well, I can see that Solvit is bringing this to a new dimension. This is a really good thing for the coming years, and this will allow us to enrich the working procedures of Solvit. We are going a little bit beyond the initially foreseen time frame, so without further ado, I'd like to give the speech to Anja Smerze, a last speaker. After Charles Dunvant for ASEL, she will be sharing a specific example of how Solvit has been able to help them. And I had received an email as a representative of the Commission from Romain Bis, your president at Luxembourg Philharmonia. So you would describe it in his place, and then Solvit people involved. Anja. Mr. Minister, Mrs. Calteux, Mrs. Pletersky, ladies and gentlemen, our President Romain Bis has had a family case to take care of and had to stay in Germany, and asked me to replace him. My Luxembourg is not so good. I'd like to continue in French if you don't mind. In order to give you a little bit of context, our the head of the community was in Italy, and the possibility to go to Umbria with Luca Gamini. The orchestra went to Perugia, Torre and Terni, and the last concert took place in Rome at the Conservatorio Santa Cecilia, and the public, and amongst the public was the president of the biggest classical music festival in Tuscany, Morellino Classico Festival, and was quite enthusiastic about our concert, and hired us for a show at his festival in 2018. We went there, and we gave shows in Chieti Otranto as well. Two tours with all necessary contacts and without any administrative problems. And so we are even more surprised when for the tour in this year, in April, the Teatro Comunale Pavate Modena asked us an A1 certificate to prove the payments of Social Security for workers or self-employed from abroad for professional reasons. This certificate could not be delivered from the CCSS here in Luxembourg because we are an orchestra of amateur musicians without any working relations between the orchestra and the musicians. So the theatre insisted that they wanted this document, and so the concert could not take place because this demand was based on European. Mr. Biss went to the office of CSS in Luxembourg, so Social Security, and there was just an indication with a phone number to get in touch with, and at the moment in time he was directly in contact with Solvit, where he had very committed people immediately available to help him in this case, and at the same time he learned in the paper that Mrs. Calteux had been named representative of the European Commission in Luxembourg, and so for years he had been playing music with Georges Calteux, and there was a family link actually. So an additional connection, funnily enough, so there was a direct contact based on a land of the kurze Wege, the country of short connections, marking our small country, and so the certificate A1 could be obtained in the month of February. Mr. Biss was called upon by the president of the Società della Musica, taking care of the organization of the tour in Italy, and he explained that he'd been called by Brussels, indicating that this demand concerning the A1 form was illegal. And after this contact, Mr. Biss explained once again the whole topic that had been communicated by email already. So the Social Security CCSS cannot deliver the A1 certificate, and only the head of the orchestra has a real relationship, and for him the certificate had been delivered already, not for the musicians. The tour was approaching rapidly, more tension coming up, logistics for transportation and lodging 80 people had to be solved, but the problem was still not clear for the Italian authorities. And it's only 2 weeks before our departure that we got the great news that the problem had finally been solved, even though there's still administrative fees of several hundred euros to be paid for the organizers in Italy. But we would like to thank very warmly Mr. Bauwens from SOLVIT Luxembourg, who kept Mr. Biss informed about the development all along the procedure. And there was a lot of exchange with SOLVIT Italy and the Italian authorities. We're really happy that today an opportunity to thank all members of the SOLVIT Luxembourg Center and the European Services, Mrs. Calteux from the European Commission as well, commonly contributing to solve the problem. The whole orchestra says thank you. Thank you for your contribution. Another very interesting example, quite to the point and in the present bit of problems being solved thanks to Solvit. This leads us to the end of our different contributions, witness reports concerning Solvit, indicating the importance of Solvit. The time has come now for questions and answers, and I'd like to ask our public, do you have questions, or did you receive all the information you needed? No questions, apparently. A last chance, last opportunity, anyone? No, it must have been clear then. Silly, can you just give a precise indication how companies and citizens can reach you? Just a brief indication. Also, for those listening to us on the live stream, how can people get in touch with you? So you simply go on the website www.solvit.lu, and via this portal you can directly have access to complaint forms and address it immediately to the Commission side as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you to Minister Franz Fayot and my colleague Marie-Veronica. Safe trip back to Brussels. Contribution from Commission side is really important for Luxembourg, and it's really great to work together on this very nice project. Thank you very much, and goodbye.